Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Daz on Film, and if you're new here, please hit that little subscribe button and the notification bell because it'll keep you up to date with all my content, and I do update quite regular now, so please hit that notification bell so you don't miss anything. And today's video is number 2 in my Movies That Define Me series, a series in which I take a look at films from my childhood that shaped my love for film and cinema in general. Now, not all the movies in the series are bona fide classics per se. Hell, some aren't even good movies, but they're all movies that hold a place in my left bosom, my left pec, whatever you want to call it, where my heart is. They're all movies that live in here. So on that note, let's get the ball rolling. This is episode 2. Let's do this. So in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the 1989 post-apocalyptic flick Cyborg, starring Jean Claude Van Damme. So before we get started, I want to say this is a film that really separates people. I mean, people either really love it or they really hate it. There's no in between. You either love Cyborg or you hate it, so which one are you? I personally love it. There's just something about a post-apocalyptic future with muscle-bound men running around. So Cyborg was released April 7th, 1989, a whole 5 months before Kickboxer, another, and some might say better loved Van Damme film. And I mean, at this point Van Damme was fresh off of Bloodsport and he got offered by Canon Delta Force 2, American Ninja 3 or Cyborg, perhaps not wanting to walk in the footsteps of other action stars such as Chuck Norris and Michael Dudikoff. He chose Cyborg, and in my opinion that was the better choice because Cyborg is the better film, but shh. So despite being cobbled together from sets built for a Spider-Man and a Masters of the Universe sequel, the setting is definitely one of the strongest points of Cyborg. I mean, that world in the film, it's just dirty, it's grimy, there's sand everywhere, there's dirt everywhere, everybody's all oiled up, you know, it looks like a wasteland, definitely. Kind of like what the world's going to look like in a year maybe, a year or two after this whole corona shit. So yeah, I mean, Cyborg, what is it to say about it? It's a film that 9-year-old me was filled with anticipation for because at that point I was going for a major Van Damme phase. You know, I collected all his movies on VHS, Bloodsport, Kickboxer, everything. So yeah, I'd seen them all except Cyborg. I could never find that one anywhere. So I was always going around the stores and stuff looking for Cyborg, you know, seeing if they've got it in, and the used VHS stalls, asking, you know, have you got a copy of Cyborg? Please, I want to see Cyborg. Do you have Cyborg for me? Please, 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 please give me Cyborg. And nobody ever had it. I could never find it. I was hunting everywhere. I think it felt like weeks, maybe months, maybe years. I don't know how long I was hunting for it, but I was hunting everywhere for it. 9-year-old me, you know, please, have you got Cyborg? But with Van Damme in, I want to watch it. And then one day I finally found it. And I held that VHS in my hand and looked at that cover, and the cover today still fills me with nostalgia, you know, that drawn cover with Van Damme with the gun, you know, I love that cover, it just fills me with so much nostalgia. So yeah, I finally took that baby home, I watched it, and then I remember I watched it, I rewound it, and then I watched it again, you know, I loved it, just everything about the film, I loved it. And you know what I mean, I was stretching my legs every day, you know, trying to do the splits between 2 chairs, hitting things, and you know, that kind of stuff. It's like an unwritten rule that if you watch a Van Damme film after it, you have to attempt the splits. That's just the way it is. You either attempt the splits or you kick somebody in the head or you oil yourself up and you stand in the mirror flexing. That's what you have to do when you watch a Van Damme film, or at least I did at 9 years old. And I mean, I'm still doing it now. I'm in lockdown now, so sometimes I'll oil myself up and I'll get in front of the mirror and I'll, you know what I mean, kumite, kumite, bye. But don't tell anybody. Shh. So one of the things I love most about Cyborg, which has always stuck in my head from being a little kid, is that gorgeous sounding synth soundtrack, you know, by Kevin Basinger and Lalo Schifrin, who did the Dirty Harry soundtrack among other good things. You know, that soundtrack's just been stuck in my head since I was a little kid. It sounds absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, I mean, that score is one of the reasons, one of the films that got me heavy into like synth music. I've always enjoyed synth style music from being a kid, and Cyborg is one of the movies to do that, along with, I'd say, the original Terminator score. That's very synth heavy. But yeah, I mean, it's just a soundtrack I love. It's one of those soundtracks that you could put on right now and just chill out, listen to it, you know, put your feet up, and at the same time it'll, you know, psych you up, get you ready to fight Fender. But yeah, it's just an absolutely underrated soundtrack. It's absolutely amazing. It's awesome. And then obviously I love the action scenes in Cyborg. There's two in particular that pop into my mind. The first one being that whole chase from that is it like a factory or something, an abandoned factory, and then they go into the sewers, and then Van Damme does the splits and he stabs that guy in the head, you know, that fight. I always loved that one as a kid, when he stabs, is it Ralph Moeller? Stabs Ralph Moeller in the head. And then he continues running through the marshlands, and then he has that fight. Van Damme pulls a knife out and he slashes somebody. And a little fun fact, I think Van Damme got sued for that because he injured somebody's eye, a stuntman's eye. Look it up. He injured somebody, he got sued. It's a whole funny story behind that. And then another action sequence I love is the end action sequence. It's because it's just 5 minutes of non-stop screaming, you know, Fender's screaming, motherfucker! Van Damme screaming, everybody's screaming, and you're just kind of like, whoa, what's going on? Yeah, it's just a great action scene. I mean, it's a typical Van Damme action scene, but it just seems that Fender is trying to match Van Damme's intensity. So Van Damme screaming, Fender screaming. I mean, anybody who's seen that film knows what I'm talking about, you know. But yeah, I mean, you've got to see that to believe it. You know, as a kid, I was laughing my ass off. I mean, it's one of those scenes that's so bad it's good. It's one of them that you could just drink a beer and just watch and just laugh your ass off. It's so funny. But yeah, to me, I mean, Cyborg's one of those films that you can put on again and again. You know, you can just watch it over and over and never get bored. There's just so much to love about it. But it's often overlooked because it's sandwiched between, you know, blood sports here, and then you've got like Van Damme going more mainstream, and Cyborg's kind of like at the beginning, but it's often overlooked. I mean, people talk about Bloodsport, they talk about Kickboxer, and then they tend to usually skip over that, and then Double Impact, Universal Soldier, Lionheart, you know, that kind of stuff. And Cyborg kind of just gets forgotten about, but it doesn't deserve to be forgotten about because it's awesome. So yeah, Cyborg is definitely an underrated gem. Definitely doesn't deserve the bad rep that it gets. You need to watch it if you've not seen it, but if you have seen it, then hopefully love it like I love it, but maybe you're in the camp that hates it, but psh. Anyways guys, I just wanted to make this video, tell you a little bit about my experiences with Cyborg and my epic quest to find it when I was 9 years old. I since own it. I own, I think, 2 copies in there. Yeah, it's definitely a movie that I often revisit and a big part of my childhood. So if you like these videos, these movies that define me series, then definitely give this one a thumbs up, and I'll do another video, another movies that define me soon. And as always, please subscribe for more content, and take it easy, stay safe, and I'll be back soon.